Los Angeles, one of the most transient cities in the world, a place that people come to in pursuit of careers and entertainment, a nicer climate, or simply for vacation. The innate pull of the glitz and glamour of the city draws tourists in flock, so they can immerse themselves in a world of fame and fortune. But LA is notorious for a plethora of brutal murders, dangerous cult activity, and some of the strangest and head-scratching disappearances in American history. Today, we're diving into what is perhaps the most mysterious happening in the history of the city, the disappearance and death of Elisa Lam. This event has captured the imaginations of many an internet sleuth, YouTuber, and conspiracy theorist for the past 8 years, and there have been copious YouTube videos, documentaries, and articles about what happened. Yet still no one is any closer to discovering what actually happened to this Canadian tourist in January of 2013 in the heart of downtown LA. With the new Netflix documentary coming out about her disappearance, I figured it was my turn to throw my hat into the ring and give you my own opinions and discoveries about this very strange case. To understand why this case has captured the minds of so many, first we should talk about the location at which she vanished from. The Hotel Cecil, one of the most famous, or perhaps infamous, landmarks in the entire city of LA. Why is it infamous? Well, because it seems to be an epicenter for violence, suicide cases, and disappearances. Elisa Lam's case is only the latest, albeit most famous, in a slew of others. Here are just a few cases that have happened at the Cecil since its opening. The hotel's reputation has been sullied so much from these events over the years that they officially changed their name to Stay on Main in 2011, which is what it is still called today. However, the Elisa Lam case occurred in 2013 and caused a whole new interest in the Cecil, in fact, more than ever before. Elisa Lam was a 21-year-old student at the University of British Columbia in Vancouver, Canada. Lam was known to have had issues with both depression and bipolar disorder, as well as other mental afflictions. She talked a lot about her struggles with mental health on a blog she had named Ether Feels. Despite this, Elisa seemed like a normal young adult. In January of 2013, Elisa dropped out of her spring semester of school suddenly and decided to make a southbound West Coast trip to San Diego and Los Angeles. Her parents were confused and concerned about the decision due to the fact that Elisa would be completely on her own, but they did plan to have daily phone calls and check-ins whilst on her trip. By way of Amtrak and various buses, she made her way down to San Diego, where she visited the San Diego Zoo and even posted photos on social media. On January 26, she arrived in Los Angeles. After 2 days, she checked into the Cecil Hotel. There's only a small amount of information known about her time while she was in the hotel. What we do know is that she was originally checked into a shared room with other people. This piece of information to me is important to note because her roommates complained about Elisa and said she was exhibiting certain odd behavior, so much so that they got hotel management to move her out of her room and into a single. What exactly this odd behavior was never stated. Without a doubt, it could give us a further peer into the mental state of Elisa while she was at the Cecil. On the day she disappeared, she visited a bookstore to purchase gifts for her family and friends back home. The cashier at this bookstore claimed Elisa seemed to be in good spirits and seemed fairly normal. Of course, someone suffering from mental health issues a lot of the time is able to compartmentalize their affliction. By January 31st, 2013, Lam's parents realized that she was absent from their daily phone call and called the Cecil to see if she had checked out. But the Cecil claimed that she had not checked out and was still in fact checked into her room. The hotel staff checked her room but couldn't find Elisa, despite the fact that all of her belongings were still in there. Elisa Lam had seemingly vanished off the face of the earth. For days, police and hotel staff searched for Elisa to no avail. Her parents also flew into LA to help with the search. After 2 weeks, Lam's whereabouts were still not known. According to her parents, Lam did indeed have mental issues, but they claimed that her general behavior never worried them, and they also said that she wasn't suicidal to their knowledge. Though they did say that there was one instance where she left home and disappeared for a while, but that she eventually returned. On February 15th, desperate for answers, the police released a peculiar CCTV video to the public. This video is the focal point to the public's interest in this case. It's a type of visual that injects not only conspiracy theories into this case, but also supernatural explanations as well. The video in question was recorded from the CCTV camera of one of the elevators in the Cecil. The footage, which has been viewed and dissected a million times over now, shows Elisa Lam entering the elevator in an almost trance-like state. In fact, many people theorize for the first few seconds of the video during her entry that she may have been on a mood-altering drug such as GHB or ecstasy. She presses the buttons in the elevator in an erratic pattern. She steps in and out of the elevator also in an erratic pattern. She steps out of the elevator, waves her hands about in a weird and almost inhuman fashion while looking like she's speaking to someone, though it's clear that no one else is there. At the end of the video, she simply walks off to the left. We sit thinking she'll return, but she doesn't. Through the entirety of the video, the elevator door strangely remains open, and then simply closes a minute after she leaves. The video spread like wildfire among the public and went viral, with many people finding the footage unsettling, odd, straight out of a horror film. I posted a link to the elevator video in the description below. Pause this video, go watch it, and then come back. Weird, isn't it? Theories began flying around after the release of the video, with some people claiming she was playing some sort of game known to people in Korea as the elevator game. Others thought she was being pursued by an attacker, human or inhuman, and others still thought that she had just been drugged and was reacting to the effects of said drugs. The theories got wilder and wilder, and the search for Elisa Lam went cold. But this case would soon take an insanely disturbing twist. In mid-February of that year, tenants at the Cecil began complaining that their water pressure was extremely low, and that the water that was coming out was dark and tasted disgusting. A maintenance worker climbed to the roof of the Cecil to check the 4 1,000-gallon tanks providing water to the guest rooms. Inside one of the tanks was Elisa Lam's dead body, floating supine and completely naked. Floating next to her were her clothes, the same clothes she was wearing in the elevator video. The tank was drained and cut open since the maintenance hatch was too small to accommodate equipment needed to remove Lam's body. If it wasn't a horror story before, it surely was now. People in the Cecil for 2 weeks were drinking, showering, and brushing their teeth in water tainted by a decomposing body. But this discovery sent this case into a frenzy. Questions flew around even more than before. How did she get to the roof? How did she get inside the tanks? How was she able to close the lid of the tank after getting in? Why was she naked? Was she murdered and placed there? Did she drown herself? And if so, was it intentional or accidental? A coroner soon claimed that Lam's body didn't show any signs of foul play, and thus ruled her death an accidental drowning. This case, for all its baffling mysteries, evidence, and general terrifying aura, closed extremely quickly, with no suspects and no real answers. The world and those watching this case did not and could not accept that conclusion. And so, let's get into the theories about what people think actually happened, and then I will give you my own personal take. A Of course, with a case as mysterious, tragic, and baffling as this, would have theories based in the paranormal. The elevator video specifically is usually what's cited as something that could have been in the realm of the paranormal. Many people say that Elisa might have been playing a game known as the elevator game, a game that involves pressing buttons on a lift in a certain order to reach another dimension. But according to many sources, if she was playing the game, she was playing it wrong, as you would need to be on the 10th floor of the building to make it work. Others believe that something paranormal was either chasing her, thus the part of the video where she seemed to be talking to someone not there, or maybe even that something was possessing her. Also, horror buffs have drawn parallels to her death with the early 2000s horror film Dark Water, which involves a death in an apartment complex and a body being found in the complex's water tank. Let me just say, I truly don't think that there's anything paranormal happening here. Yes, the Cecil is legendary for being haunted, a place where evil entities live, but I think that the theories that involve human involvement are more believable. This theory is without a doubt a distinct possibility. Despite the fact that the coroner ruled the death an accidental drowning and that there was no foul play, many people believe that Lam had to have been murdered and tossed into the tank by someone. The evidence that leads people to this is that Lam in the elevator video looked as if she was hiding from someone. Also, they question how Lam got up to the roof on her own without tripping an alarm, made it into the tank on her own, and then had the lid closed after she was put in. Many theorize that it was a worker at the Cecil who might have done it, and perhaps this worker was the one responsible for the unresponsive elevator and knew a way up to the roof without tripping an alarm. Some even say that it might have been an off-duty cop who murdered her, and the investigation was closed quickly in order to protect said cop. In fact, many people have pointed out repeatedly that the elevator footage sent out by the police is heavily edited. There are time jumps, the time code in the corner is blurred out, and it seems that whenever Elisa speaks and we can see her face, her lips are pixelated as well. This has led people to believe that there is some kind of cover-up happening, though cops have simply stated that the footage is doctored for broadcasting purposes, and that it was the media who altered certain things, not them. Whatever the case, the murder theory is one of the more popular ones. Despite this, though, there has been one direct monkey wrench in the murder theory as relates to Lam getting to the roof and into the tank. Inexplicably, on her own, a YouTuber a few years back visited the Cecil and taped himself getting onto the building's fire escape without tripping an alarm, climbing to the top of the building, and then climbing to an even higher part of the roof that overlooks the water tanks, proving it was very possible for someone to not only get to the roof, but get into the tanks. Lam definitively suffered from both bipolar disorder and depression, and perhaps even had episodes of mania and psychosis. Lam was on a cocktail of prescription drugs to keep her bipolar disorder in check. This included both stimulants and stabilizer meds. But according to Lam's autopsy, she had only taken her prescribed stimulant medication, but neither of her stabilizers. This may have led her to have had a manic episode, which can cause some bipolar sufferers to experience hallucinations or psychosis. This would surely explain her attitude during the elevator footage, as well as her general odd behavior, according to her roommates, and perhaps even an explanation as to why she decided to go into the water tank. A psychiatrist on YouTube theorized that she potentially had a manic episode which started even before her trip. This led to her rash decision to visit the US West Coast on her own, with the day that she drowned in the tank being the day of the culmination or the peak of the manic episode that worked in concert with her incorrect ingestion of her meds. There are some people that believe that Elisa Lam never in fact died at all, and is perhaps alive even now, and that this whole thing was one big stunt. The only real evidence that could potentially point to this is one that is quite eerie and pertains to both this theory and the murder theory. Weeks after Lam's body was found and she was declared dead, her blog updated. The update features simply one image, a picture of the Hermit, an arcane symbol which relates to one going into a period of isolation. Now, some people think that this is in fact the still alive Elisa Lam telling the world, however subtly, that she was going to disappear for an undisclosed time. Pertaining to the murder theory, others believe that whoever killed Elisa stole her phone and possibly uploaded the picture to her blog as a disturbing mockery of her isolation within the water tank. But many people have refuted these claims, saying that it is possible Elisa set the picture on a calendar auto upload feature. There are even more theories around this case, some even involving alien abduction and scientific experiments. But it's time I gave my honest take on what I think happened. In the case of Elisa Lam, I think the answer is tragic but grounded in reality. I agree completely with the third theory. Elisa was having a manic episode and was suffering from hallucinations that led to her potentially believing someone was chasing her, thus explaining her strange behavior in the elevator, as well as talking to someone unseen. Lam took the fire escape on her own, up to the roof, climbed onto the higher part, opened the hatch herself. The hatch was reported to be not even that heavy, took her clothes off, tossed them in, and hopped into the tank in an effort to stay hidden from whatever she thought was chasing her. Lam then drowned in the tank after a while, potentially from exhaustion from treading for so long, or perhaps even something else related to her current mental state. The maintenance worker at the Cecil went to the tanks and noticed one of the hatches was open and closed it, not noticing Elisa's dead body at first. Days later, after the complaints rolled in about the black water, the same maintenance worker reopened the hatch and found Elisa. He told authorities that he had found the hatch closed as it always was and had not closed it himself in recent time in an effort to ward off any suspicion. Still, though what I think happened runs close to what the police's final reports were, I still think the murder theory holds water, even with all the rational data we've accrued for this case. There are still so much gaps in the timeline of events that we know nothing of. There's still so much unknowns and things that can't be answered. Even things that still seem, even to me, somewhat paranormal. The one thing in this case that still bothers me and that I can't answer with any real logical explanation is the elevator door in the video that stays open the entire length of the video, inexplicably, and then suddenly closes a minute after Lam leaves. The door, in fact, is already open when Lam enters the frame. This has always been the one thing in this case that has always left me scratching my head. It's not likely that a worker was holding the door open remotely. Why would they do that? It's not as if they knew that Lam was going to act the way she acted or do the things that she was going to do. Some people say perhaps the numbers Lam typed into the door made the door malfunction. But I don't think it would have stayed malfunctioning for that long. The elevator, though aged, looked fairly modern, and most modern elevators self-fix themselves from a jam pretty instantaneously. So was there perhaps some sort of entity holding the door open? Perhaps an entity that was possibly possessing her or chasing her? Probably not. In any case, the mysterious disappearance and death of Elisa Lam has captured the morbid minds of internet users and true crime followers for nearly a decade now. Netflix is releasing a 4-part docuseries about Lam's death, which will no doubt be the most in-depth look into the case that has ever been done. Hopefully they present some new information and new evidence. But until next time, this is the Night Lounge.